Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Mohammed, your personal PMP coach from Certified with Ease, coming back to you guys with another brand new video in my living room studio. This is not going to be a mindset video. This is not going to be a question video. Rather, it's going to be a theory-based video. Yes, you need to know theory for the exam. That doesn't mean you have to know the entire textbook, but you need to know some important topics. And in this video, we are going to talk about the most important topic that you need to master for the exam. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Mohammed. I'm a PMP instructor. I founded Certified with Ease. So far, we've trained and helped thousands of individuals get PMP certified. We have more than 900 students currently in our school community who want to get PMP certified. Our videos altogether have received hundreds of thousands of views because of viewers like you. And if you're interested in our PMP Accelerator course to help you get certified in 30 days, make sure to book that appointment. It's going to be included in the description. Okay, so enough of that self-promotion. What do we have in store for today? Well, here's the thing. 80% of the exam is agile based. 20% about is predictive, right? 80% is agile. Within the agile topic now, what is the most important topic you have to master? The most important topic you have to master is known as the agile development cycle. Now, what is the agile development cycle? The agile development cycle is basically the process that any agile project follows to get from start to finish, meaning the product. Okay, so anytime you want to build a product, you have to follow the agile development cycle. In this video, we are going to talk about every step and exactly what you need to know for the exam. Okay, so just to give you guys a quick overview, you got a couple of individuals involved, and this is very important. You have to understand this, okay? And I'll break it down for you right now so you can take note of it. What do you need to actually know about the cycle? You need to know what happens in each step. You need to know the main players involved, so who's actually involved, and you need to know their roles in those steps. Once you understand these three fundamentals, you will understand the agile development cycle, okay? So the first step of the agile development cycle, not really a step, but it's the starting point. And the starting point starts with the customer. With the customer, we start with the customer in mind. The customer is the big boss. We are building the product for the customer. Now, the customer and the product owner are best buddies, they're best friends. The customer tells the product owner everything, tells the product owner that I want this feature, this, that, and the third. The product owner will then take that information and bring it to the team. Okay, so the first step is a customer, and you have the product owner involved. You can group them together, basically, customer and product owner. The next step, or that's the starting point, the first official step is going to be the product backlog. Okay, the product backlog. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. What does that mean? That means the one in charge of the product backlog is the PO, the product owner. So remember that. Any situation on your exam that involves the product backlog, you need to bring the product owner. You need to bring the product owner. If there's something wrong with the backlog, don't bring the project manager, not necessarily. You bring the product owner. Okay? So you have this backlog. Now, what happens in this backlog? The product owner is the one who owns the backlog. We understand that. But does that mean that the team and the customer are not a part of the process? No, it does not mean that. Rather, when you have the backlog, the product owner acts as the middle person between the customer and the team. So let's say, for example, the customer says, "Hey, I want this. I want 12 different cameras on my iPhone, or on my new cell phone product, my new smartphone product." The product owner will look at that and say, "Okay, let me go to the team. What does this actually mean?" And the team starts to break it down technically. 12 cameras mean that we have to have this, that, and that. 12 cameras means that we need to build this feature like this or that, right? They are adding the technical elements now and really understanding how we can go about building 12 cameras, which is a ridiculous example, I know, for our new smartphone. The product owner will now take that information, client feedback and project team feedback, will take the backlog and now will reprioritize or prioritize according to what the end goal is. 12 cameras might not be the priority. It might not be the priority. So be listed on the backlog as something all the way on the bottom. Okay. So just to recap, you have the starting point, the customer. The first step is the product backlog. The product backlog is consistently refined by the project team's suggestions and the customer suggestion. But the one who owns the backlog is the product owner. Now, what happens after that? Let's say, for example, we have a priority straight on our product backlog. We know number one, number two, number three, and so forth. What do we do next? The next thing we have is what is known as the sprint planning meeting. Okay. So we have our priorities in our backlog. Now we gather the team and we speak to the team. We say, hey, you know what? We need to plan out the upcoming sprint. What are we going to accomplish? And this is where things like team velocity comes into play, your story points, for example, all these different things, right? Which we're not going to get too technical here. We're just focusing on the overview. So in the sprint planning meeting, you're literally planning for the sprint that's coming up. The team agrees, product owners on the same page, project managers on the same page, everyone's on the same page. And then we have, after that, the sprint planning meeting, the sprint backlog. Now, you can think of the sprint backlog as the product backlog, but the product backlog is for the entire product itself. The sprint backlog is for this specific sprint. So what do we have to accomplish in this specific sprint? That is our backlog, and it's prioritized, right, according to our priorities. Okay, so think of the sprint backlog as a part of the product backlog, but the focus is on this specific sprint. So once that's approved, then we actually start the sprint. Okay? The gun goes off. Like in a race, the gun goes off and you have sprinters sprinting to the finish line. We're actually starting the sprint now. Now, something interesting happens during this process. The product backlog freezes. What does that mean? That means at this stage, if the client comes running along saying, hey, can you change this and add this and add this? Listen, we tell the client, this is not the time for this. Let's talk about that after the sprint. There's one exception, which I'll get to at the end of the video. Make sure you stay tuned because this comes in the exam. Okay, so we're in the sprint. What's happening? The team is working really hard to get to the requirements. And every single day we have something known as a daily stand-up meeting. Okay, our daily stand-up. The daily stand-up is a short 15-ish minutes, right? 15, 20 minutes, even 30 sometimes, depending on your team size, where you basically uncover three questions. You go around and you ask your team members three questions. Number one, what did you do yesterday? Number two, what do you plan on doing today? Number three, are there any impediments you're facing? Okay. And the one responsible for dealing with the impediments are not the project team members. It's the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is the facilitator. Okay. The Scrum Master not only facilitates the daily stand up meeting, depending on the nature of the impediment, the Scrum Master will also help regarding that, right? Sometimes it might be something that the project manager needs to step in for, and the project manager will step in. But the idea is you want to help your team, the ones that are directly working on the actual product, you want to clear up any things, any impediments that are not directly related to their actual work to let them focus. Because remember, guys, it's a sprint. They are working extremely hard. Agile projects are very, very fast paced. Okay. So you got the sprint, you got the daily stand-up meeting, and then after that, let's say the sprint is finished, your team is done. Right after that, you have what is known as the sprint review meeting, right? The sprint review meeting. Now, so this is where you're going to have your team, you're going to have the client involved, and you're going to present what has been created in the sprint to the client. And this is the time where the client can say, you know what? Instead of 12 cameras, I want 20, right? That doesn't mean they're going to get 20 cameras. Rather, the suggestions are going to be added in a prioritized fashion in the backlog. The product owner will do that. Okay? So suggestions are added to the backlog, priorities are shifted because of the review meeting, right? And that's the nature of agile. We're constantly reiterating. And then after that step, we move on to the retrospective, the sprint retrospective. Okay, so I remember some questions on my exam, where you had to know the difference between what happens in the review meeting and the retrospective. Okay, so make sure you know the difference. The retrospective involves the project team. The client is not involved anymore. The retrospective is simply where the project manager comes along, you got your entire project team. What do we do right here? What do we do? What do we do right in the sprint? What do we do wrong? What can we improve on? They discuss so that there's a notion of continuous improvement, Kaizen, being pushed forward. Okay? Once that is done, at the end of each sprint, what's interesting is that you have some of the product being built. So eventually, what's going to happen is you're going to develop an MVP, a minimal viable product, or a product that can literally be used by the market. Once that happens, you can then ship that out to the market to gather some feedback. Okay. So once you go through that cycle over and over and over again, you are going to have an actual product at the end. You're going to take feedback from the MVP. You're going to make the sprint according to that. Take customer feedback. Ask your team. You're going to do the entire cycle until you actually have the product at the end. Okay? Very important. So, in a nutshell, that is how the cycle works. Okay? That's how the cycle works. So, just to summarize and reiterate again, remember your starting points with the customer, product owner, customer, best buddies, right? And then you have the product backlog. The product backlog, the one who owns it is the PO, the product owner. Okay, but the customer and the team plays a role in helping the product owner prioritize and refine it. After that, you have the sprint planning meeting. Okay, where the upcoming sprint is planned out. What are we going to focus on? Then you have the sprint backlog. Okay, sprint backlog, think of it as a small part of the actual product backlog, but the focus is on this sprint. Then you have the iteration, the daily stand up that happens in the iteration. And then after that, you have the review meeting, the sprint review meeting with the client. And then you have the sprint retrospective, right? And then lastly, you can have an MVP or a increment of the product being made. Okay, that is the cycle. Now, very, very important to note for your exam. We mentioned this earlier in the video. What happens when you're working on a sprint and then all of a sudden the government comes along and says, hey, you know what you're working on? That specific part or that specific product or increment, whatever you want to call it, that's actually banned. It's illegal now. What do you do? Do you still keep working on it? You don't. It wouldn't make sense, right? When it comes to the law and industry standards and regulations, sorry, not standards, industry regulations, you want to make sure that you're following. And if you are working on something that you cannot work on anymore, the product backlog unfreezes and the priorities change, even if it's during the middle of a sprint. But this will only happen when you have a new law that comes into play or when you have a new regulation. Okay, this is something that you cannot ignore. All right. So, guys, that's a quick summary of the Agile development cycle. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Remember, this is the most important part of the Agile development cycle. We cover it in our course as well, along with all the other important theory that you have to know, along with questions, foundational questions, PMP mindset training, domain specific questions, timed and untimed exam simulators. If you're interested, make sure you book that appointment. I'll see you guys in the next video.